Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Apsara Karunaratne from the SAARC Cultural Center in Colombo, and we are delighted to welcome you to another session of the SAARC Monthly Talk Series organized by the SAARC Cultural Center. As many of you may be aware, SAARC Monthly Talk Series was launched in 2023, and this year marks the third consecutive year of this initiative. The objective of this talk series are to host discussions on cultural heritage, cultural diversity, and to raise awareness of the many facets of the South Asian culture. So at the outset, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Sanjay Garg for accepting our invitation despite his busy schedule. Today, Dr. Garg will deliver a lecture on the numismatic legacy of South Asia. We know of no one better suited to speak on this subject, as he is widely regarded as one of the leading authorities in the field. So to brief you on the format of this session, we have allocated time for Q&A following the lecture. So in the interest of time, we kindly invite members of the audience to send their questions and comments through the chat box after the presentation. So it is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Dr. Sanjay Garg. He is an eminent researcher with extensive research experience in history of South Asia, with specialization on economic and monetary history, currency and coinage, architecture, and archival studies. His research findings have been widely published in print and multimedia, which include 33 books and 73 research papers. He obtained a doctorate in history at the Center for Historical Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, Masters in History from the St. John's College, Agra University, and Diploma in Archival Studies at the National Archives of India. He is proficient in Hindi, English, Urdu, and Persian, and has basic knowledge of French. Dr. Garg served the National Archives of India, New Delhi for over 36 years, from 1988 to 2024, as the Assistant Archivist, Assistant Director of Archives, and Deputy Director of Archives. Amongst his numerous contributions at the National Archives of India was the launch of an online search portal of the National Archives of India, Abhilekh Patal, on 11th March 2015 as part of the year-long celebration to mark the 125th anniversary of the National Archives of India. In addition, he has also served at the SAARC Cultural Center in Colombo as its first Deputy Director Research from 2011 to 2014, and as the Director of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center in Kazakhstan from 2018 to 2021. Dr. Garg has also served as the Officer on Special Duty at the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav Secretariat under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India from 2021 to 2024. At present, Dr. Garg serves as the series editor of Monetary History of India, a Manohar and a Routledge publication, and two of his forthcoming publications are scheduled for release in 2026. So this first publication, which will be released in two parts, is titled Indian Coins in the Fitzwilliam Museum, Cambridge, Volume 1, Mughals and Their Contemporaries, the second part of the two-part volume. And the second publication is India in Iran, an illustrated catalogue of Indian artifacts in Malek National Museum and National Museum of Iran, Tehran. So with this introduction, it is my great pleasure and honor to invite Dr. Garg to deliver his talk on numismatic legacy of South Asia from the earliest times to the 13th century. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Apsara. It's indeed a great honor and great pleasure to be part of the SAARC Culture Center, where I had the opportunity to serve for almost 4 years, as you said, from 2011 to 2014 as the first Deputy Director Research. So let me share my screen and then I'll do the rest of the talking. So good afternoon, namaste, salam alaikum, kuzuzung paula, and ayubowan. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Kaushalya Kumara Singhe, Director of the SAARC Culture Center, for inviting me for this SAARC Talk Series, and also for suggesting this today's topic, which happens to be my special area of interest. It is heartening to know that the center has come a long way since its foundation, and today it is being counted amongst the leading cultural institutions, not only of South Asia, but worldwide. For Dr. Kumar Singhes and his dynamic team, I give my congratulations and best wishes. The topic has been given to me as the numismatic legacy of South Asia. It's a huge topic. I have tried to condense it in a manageable time limit that we have. So this is the overview of what I will be talking in the next 45 to 50 minutes, starting with the basic questions of history and historiography and how numismatic sources play a part and a vital one in the historiography process of historiography. And then I'll be talking about the earliest coin series that we find in South Asia, and then chronologically coming to discuss various coin series. So let me begin with a quote from the Shakespeare's play The Tempest. The main protagonist of this play, Antonio, argues that everything that happened before this moment, that is his banishment, his survival, his shipwreck, was merely a prologue to things that are to follow. What he implies is the history sets the stage for the future. He says what is past is prologue. And incidentally, this very quotation is inscribed on the pedestal of this sculpture that you see on your screen, which is placed at the western gate of the National Archives and Records Administration in Washington, D.C., where a lady is shown with the open book in her hand, and below is this quotation. So let's start by asking, what is history? And this brings to the, how it is written. What is history? So let us start this with this basic question first. So history has meant different things to different people. For example, the famous Greek historian Dionysius, he says that history is philosophy drawn from examples. Aristotle, another Greek philosopher, says that it is an account of the unchanging past. An interesting definition has been given by Napoleon Bonaparte, and he says that it is an agreed fable. The French general and monarch, he dismissed history, and he said that it's nothing but a fable or a story that everyone agrees upon. Among the historians, there's a definition by A.L. Rouse, who has written this book called The Use of History. And he says that essentially it is the record of the life of men in their geographical and physical environments. I'll give you the Indian perspective to this question as well. In Sanskrit, the word for history is itihas. And as you can see that it is made up of three components, iti, ha, and asa. Iti means completed, ha is has been, and asa is like this. So a simple definition, if we put the meaning of these three words together, we'll get the simple definition that history translates as something that has been completed like this. Now, this definition in turn raises a very pertinent question. And this question is that should all that has happened in the past be part of history? A tree fell, a dog barked, a hut collapsed, a lover sang, a bird chirped. So many things happened in the past. But most of these are not a historian's concern. So how does a historian select his subject? And what are the different types of history from which this selection is made? The famous American historian Bernard Lewis delivered a series of 3 lectures where he discussed different types of history based on their sources. Later, these lectures were published in a book form. And the title of the lectures made the title of the book, History Remembered, Recovered, and Invented. Lewis explains how societies and nations construct their collective memory for this purpose. And he categorizes history into 3 distinct forms. One is remembered history, you take up any civilization, the most ancient part of the history is all oral. In India, in South Asia, there was a Shruti tradition where the teacher used to memorize the text to the students. Same with the Aesop's table in the Greek civilization. So, unwritten generational myths and traditions that are organically passed down, but they are largely vulnerable due to distortion over time. The second is the recovered history, the deliberate retrieval of the past through conscious historical investigation, often via archaeology, archive, and scholarly research, fall under this category. And finally, there's an invented history where facts and myths that are selectively curated, misinterpreted, or fabricated to forge a national identity or a political legitimacy. So, how history is written? Let me begin with a quote from the famous historian Carl Jacob Christoph Burckhardt. He was a Swiss historian. When he was asked in Italy what it takes to be a historian, he replied, Bisogna saper legere. That means you must know how to read. A historian's job is indeed to read and present a reliable interpretation of the past. To accomplish this job, a historian is constantly in search of newer glasses so as to see the past distinctly or differently. These glasses are the historical sources that range from oral traditions to literary accounts and include a mosaic of material remains of the past. These sources are the building blocks for historiography of any nation or civilization. After identifying the sources, the historian employs a number of tools to communicate with these sources and make them narrate a story of the past. Several of these individual stories are then interweaved to form a historical narrative, which is then tested against with other evidences and presented to the contemporary audience as a plausible explanation of a historical question. Depending on the period that is under inquiry, the historians rely on a availability of different categories of these sources. Thus, for ancient period, we have archaeological sources. For medieval period or the early modern period, we have literary sources. And for the modern period, we generally rely on the archival sources, not to mention the oral history. So the job of the historian is often likened with that of a judge who has to examine different evidences and testimonies, check their veracity, seek corroborating evidence, and cross-check every information before arriving at a conclusion. What is important in this craft of historiography is retaining the objectivity and not trying to fulfill an agenda. So today we are examining the role of coins or the numismatic sources in reconstructing and asserting the history and historical legacy of South Asia. The geographical area that now comprises the SAARC member countries has a numismatic legacy which is rooted in antiquity. The Buddhist text Anuttara Nikaya mentions 16 Mahajanapadas or great kingdoms and republics that were located in the Indian subcontinent between the 6th and the 4th century BCE, spanning from the modern day Afghanistan to Bihar. These Mahajanapadas laid the foundation for early Indian urbanization and subsequent the Mauryan Empire. So on your screen, you see the name of the Janpad and where it was located. And what is interesting to note, I'll show you a map for this, that most of these capitals were located on the river side. So river served not only as a way to sustain the agriculture and the urbanization, but also as a means of transport and trade. Now, the earliest coins that we have are from the Kashi Janpad, which was one of the 16 Mahajanpadas. And these are the small pieces of silver weighing approximately 3.5 to 4 grams. And there are no inscriptions, but they contain different symbols which are punched on the surface of these coins. And that's why these coins are known as the punch mark coins. The identification of the symbols, which range from the natural symbols, the symbols drawn from the nature like sun, moon, trees, and some geometrical patterns. On the basis of these symbols, the identification of different Mahajanpada has been carried out by the experts. So here, for example, if you see the Panchmark coins of Kashi Janpada, these two six-armed symbols are constant and they are punched on the opposite side, and the other two are variable symbols. So here on the bottom also you see here that here these symbols are constant and the other two are variable. Then there were different denominations of these coins as halves and fulls. So half was the exactly the half of the weight of the full denomination, weighing approximately 1.25 to 1.3 grams of silver. And since the flan was very small, the half denomination contained only one symbol, the primary symbol of that Mahajanpada. There are other coins from other Janpada. For example, this is from Koshal Janpada. Again, there are different symbols, and the identification is like this S-like symbol is identified with the Koshal Janpada. Now, in the Buddhist text, we know about the conflict between the Kashi and the Koshal Janpada. And numismatic evidence gives us an insight that how the coins which were circulating in one Janpada, in this case the Kashi, was also revalidated by stamping upon the some symbols of their Janpada on the symbols of the other Janpada, in this case the Koshal Janpada. So here you can see that there are countermarks of Kashi Janpada's symbols over Koshal Janpada, which is this one. Now, how we know about that this particular coin belonged to Kashi or Koshal is basically on the basis of the symbols and also their find spots, the distribution patterns of these coins. Magad was one of the important Janpadas which eventually grew into a dynastic rule of the Mauryan Empire was followed. So here you see the sun symbol and the six-arm symbol. These remains constant, and the other three symbols, they were variable. There's an animal symbol here, there's an animal symbol here, sort of a hill and a tree, arrow-like symbol here. And when the Magad grew into an empire, the initial two symbols remained the same, but the other three symbols kept on varying. So these coins remain in circulation for very many years. This is a coin from the Gandhara, which is the modern Afghanistan area. Here the shape of the coins, Panchmark coins, was slightly different. They were called the bent bark. And you can see one side is plain, the other side bears the punches. And this punch, this symbol, is identified as the symbol of Gandhara Janpad. Now, continuing with the Gandhara region, we find that historically it served as the ancient geopolitical and cultural gateway to the Indian subcontinent, guarding crucial routes like the Khyber Pass. It acted as a vital crossroad where conquerors, traders, and monks from Central and West Asia and the Mediterranean entered the subcontinent. Beyond Gandhara lay Bactria. Bactria lay in the modern-day Afghanistan and Central Asia, while Gandhara covered parts of modern Pakistan and Afghanistan. Together, these two interconnected ancient historical regions bridged the East and the West. Together, they formed the crucible of Greco-Buddhist civilization, linking Hellenistic, Persian, and Indian cultures. One of the earliest numismatic evidence of this interconnection is associated with the invasion of Alexander the Great of Macedonia. A very important chronological marker of the ancient Indian history is the invasion of Alexander in 326 BCE. Surprisingly, no ancient Indian text makes any mention of this event. All the historians of Alexander are from outside India, and the earliest of whom, Strabo, who lived between 63-64 BCE to 24 CE, was born about 2.5 centuries later. So there is no contemporary account of literary account of Alexander's invasion, neither in the Eastern tradition, literary tradition, nor in the Greek tradition. But luckily, we have got coins. And this is a coin which strangely do not bear any inscription, but the visual representation which we find on these coins makes it very clear, and it vouches for the information that we know from the other sources. That is the famous battle between Alexander and the Indian king Porus on the banks of Hellespont or Jhelum as we know it today. So on the overs, what you see is a equestrian figure who is chasing two riders on an elephant who are like going away from the battlefield, and he has almost pierced a long spear on the pillion rider, and the driver of the elephant, the Mahot, he is trying to throw something on the chasing equestrian figure. So this is like the elephant represents the Indian army, and the equestrian figure shows the Greek rider, possibly Alexander. And on the other side, we see an armored figure who is holding a thunderbolt in his hand, one hand. The other is the long Greek spear and a sword, dangling from his waist. And very faintly, you can see here that goddess Nike is flying in and to garland this victor. So this is a contemporary visual evidence of battle between Alexander and Porus. There's another medallion which was issued by his successor Seleucus, where you see an Indian archer with a flowing beard holding a bow and arrow and an elephant. So these were known as the commemorative medals which were issued by Alexander's successor, and they provide the earliest visual and contemporary or near contemporary evidence to this historical event. After Alexander's departure, the region known as Bactria was ruled by nearly 33 kings and queens over Punjab for about 100 years during 200 to 100 BCE. The classic writers are almost ignorant about them. This remarkable historical episode was revealed to the world after nearly 2,000 years only by discovery of their coins in gold, silver, and copper. All these coins bear the name and titles of the king, and therefore the contemporary evidence of their rule and extent of their empire. So these are the kings who are known only by their coins. I'll just run through quickly. So this is a Bactrian king, Seleucus, oversaw the bearded bust of Zeus, who is king of gods. And there's a quadriga, elephant quadriga, and goddess Athena, the goddess of victory. The same, his son, Demetrius II, Athena standing, and the name is written on the both side in Greek letters called Basilios Demetrioi, that is King Demetrius. There are some other examples. Now here, for the first time, we see the bilingual coins. These are the coins of the Indo-Greeks. This on the left-hand side is a coin of Apollodotus. So on the overs, all around the three sides of the elephant figure, you find the name and the titles in Greek letters. And the same is translated in Kharoshthi script and in the Indian Prakrit language on the reverse. The idea is that these coins were to be used by the populace who probably did not understand Greek. So for them, the name of the king was depicted or inscribed on these coins in the local language. Menander is a famous Indo-Greek king. In the Buddhist tradition, he is recorded in Milindapana. He is called Milind. So he not only ruled over the kingdom that extended into Gandhara and Punjab, but he is also credited with having led an expedition deep into Gangetic Valley. The Indo-Scythians, known as the Shakas, were a nomadic group of Iranian origin who migrated from Central Asia and into the northwestern Indian subcontinent, pushed southwards by the Yuezhi in the 2nd century BCE. And they established various kingdoms across modern-day Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, profoundly shaping the region's political and cultural landscape until the 4th century CE. In the early years of the new millennium, the Indo-Scythians faced a challenge from an entirely new source, the Parthians or the Pahlavs, who were the warriors from Persia. Led by their great king Gondophorus, the Indo-Parthians established a powerful kingdom that lasted approximately 100 years. Gondophorus, an old Persian word meaning the winner of a glory, had an Indian deity Lord Shiva depicted on his coins. So here you can see on the coins of Gondophorus a standing Shiva with a trident in his hand. This is for the first time that we see the anthropomorphic figure of an Indian deity on the coins of the successors of Alexander. This is an idea where they ruled. About the beginning of the last quarter of the first century AD, the North India came under the sway of the Kushanas. The name Kushana derives from the Chinese term Guishang, used in historical writings to describe one branch of the Yuezhi, a loose confederation of Indo-European people, who had been living in northwestern China until they were driven west by another group. The rule of Kanishka, the third Kushana ruler who flourished from late 1st to the early mid 2nd century CE, was administered from two capitals, Purshpur, now Peshawar in Pakistan, near Khyber Pass, and Mathura in northern India. Under Kanishka's rule, at the height of the dynasty, Kushana controlled a large territory ranging from the Aral Sea through areas that include present-day Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan into northern India as far as Banaras or Kashi, and as far as Sanchi in the south. The Kushana coins serve as a captivating window into the religious landscape of the ancient India and Central Asia. These numismatic artifacts feature a diverse array of deities reflecting their syncretic blend of indigenous and foreign beliefs. These include the Greek deities like Heracles, Zeus, and Nike, Iranian deities like Ahura Mazda, Pharaoh, and Mao. The coin is that of a Mao, which is a moon god. The Hindu deities like Shiva, Mahasena, or Skanda. On the coin that you see, Shiva with a bull holding a trident. And Buddhist deity, Lord Buddha, both in the form of Shakyamuni and also in Maitreya. And here you can see the term written in Greek letters, which reads Bodo, beta, omega, delta, delta, omega, Bodo. In fact, Shiva in the human form with 4 hands. Earlier on the coins of Gondophorus, we have seen Shiva with 2 hands. But here, the Shiva with 4 hands is seen only on these coins. So here you can see is holding a damru or a small drum, trident, and carcass of a deer in one of his hands. And the legend here is Ohesho. Ohesho is Shiva. Similarly for Lord Buddha. So these are the, above is a gold coin, the below one is a copper coin, and these are the various forms in which the figure of Lord Buddha is depicted. So the representation of Buddha in human form is also noticed for the first time on the coins of Kanishka. In the earlier forms, he was represented only symbolically. So this, for the first time, the anthropomorphic figure of Lord Buddha is witnessed on the coins of Kanishka. Also coins of Kanishka, these are the copper coins where seated Buddha, the Maitreya pose, has been depicted. The Western Kshatrapa, which was a Shaka dynasty, and Satavahanas were major rival powers that dominated Western and Central India for roughly 300 years, beginning in the first quarter of the present century. Between them, they held large chunks of present state of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, and Karnataka. The power of the Western Kshatrapas started to decline in the 2nd century CE. One of the great Western Kshatrapa king was Napahan, whose rule is variously dated between 24 and 70 CE and 119 to 124 CE. He was the one who ultimately he was defeated by another powerful Satvahana king, Gautamiputra Satkarni. And as we have seen earlier in the case of the two Mahajanapada, Kashi and Kaushal, that how the coins were revalidated by the victors. Here, what you see here is a Satvahana symbol. In numismatic, it's called the Ujjain symbol. You can find it here on Satvahana coin. And this was a coin of Napahana. And you see that this face has been counterstruck with the Satvahana symbol on both sides. Thereby, that a large number of these coins were discovered in a hoard in Jogalthambi in present Nasik district. So the victor in this case physically erased the defeated king's currency by stamping his own sovereign insignia directly over the Napan's existing coins, a definitive proof of absolute victory. It is also evident that from the coins of Gautamiputra Satkarni, here you can see a ship on the coin here. This is the sketch of the same coin. That Satkarni or the Satavahanas meant maritime trade was brisk during this period. We once again return to Magad in Bihar, where the Mauryan Empire had collapsed around 185 BCE. After a gap of roughly 5 centuries, the Gupta Empire rose to power in Magad region around 320 CE. This empire is often referred to as the Golden Age of India due to its remarkable advancement in culture, science, and political stability. This period witnessed flourishing art, literature, scientific discoveries, and administrative excellence, laying the foundation for the future developments in the history of the region. The coinage of the Gupta dynasty is widely celebrated as the pinnacle of ancient Indian metallurgy and numismatic art. Apart from serving the monetary functions, these coins also commemorate personal achievements, material prowess, and religious devotion of the Gupta kings. They even commemorated matrimonial alliances, as in this coin on the left-hand side here, we see a male and a female figure, the king and the queen. And on the reverse, we see seated goddess Lakshmi and an inscription here. So we know from the text that Gupta king Chandragupta first married the Lichvi prince Kumaradevi of Lichvi clan, which controlled the northern Bihar and parts of Nepal. And here the inscription says Lichveya, that this is a coin of Lichveya. And here the name of the ruler. So it also shows the position of women in the contemporary society, where the figure of the queen is also placed on the coins. Chandragupta with the hello is standing here. The other coin is of Samudragupta, the prodigious son of Chandragupta and Kumara Devi. He was immensely proud of his maternal lineage, and in certain inscription he calls himself Lichveya Dohita, that is the son of Lichvi's daughter. He was a great warrior and had performed the ancient Vedic horse sacrifice, which marked the emperor's undisputed imperial sovereignty. Now, this was a tradition where a horse was let loose, followed by an army, and wherever the horse went, it was presumed that the whole territory belongs to the person who, or the king who has let loose this horse. And if anyone challenged the authority of the king, he would catch hold of the horse, and the army had to face the wrath of the army. And at the end of the whole exercise, the horse was sacrificed at an altar. So here on the right hand side, what you see here is that a horse is standing before a flag like a standard, and on the reverse is a goddess, and the legend says here Ashwamedh Parakrama, the prowess performed, the one who has prowess to perform the Ashwamedh. The coins of the Chola rulers were predominantly struck in gold, silver, and copper. These coins served as the primary currency across South Asia and were also widely circulated through their overseas territories in Southeast Asia. The Chola army seems to have been in continued battle with the Pandyas and their ally, the Sinhalese, in Elam or Sri Lanka. Elam or Ejam in the ancient native Tamil text, it is a name for which the entire Sri Lanka is known in the Tamil text. So several Chola coins of Uttama Chola and his successor Rajaraja Chola have been found in the Pandya territories as well as in Sri Lanka, which vouch for Uttam Chola's activities in that country. Rajaraja Chola invaded Lanka in 990 CE and conquered the northern half. Ruining Anuradhapura, he made Polonnaruwa his capital on the island. Rajendra Chola succeeded in extended Chola occupation over the whole of the island. And it was only in 1070 under King Vijayabahu I, who ruled from 1055 to 1110, that Chola occupation came to an end. So here you see a coin of Uttam Chola, the coin on the leftmost side, where a tiger is seated upright, which represents the Chola dynasty, and the two fish also standing upright. The fish was the symbol of the Pandya dynasty. And very interestingly, the name of the king is inscribed in Devanagari, which became the script for Hindi later on, and not in Tamil character. So similarly, this is the coin of Rajaraja Chol, where a standing king and a reclining or seated king is depicted on two sides, and you can see the similarity between the Chola coin and the coin of Vijaybahu, the Sri Lankan king, except for the inscription. And here also the inscription is in Devanagari. It's a Vijaya Bahu. It's written here in Devanagari script, the gold coin. The typological similarity, what is known in the numismatic terms, is the currency conservatism. That once the people are used to, accepting or using a certain type of currency, it is very difficult to make changes overnight to offset this long usage. So, what we can learn from these coins? The systematic study of coins is called numismatics. Analyzing ancient and medieval coins provide crucial breakthrough for historians, especially when written texts are missing or biased. Here is what we can learn from the study of coins. First and foremost is the technological and artistic evolution. The coins are made of metal. How the metal is to be sourced, mined, melted, at what temperature, what should be the melting procedure, how to ascertain the purity, what would be the alloy composition, because you cannot make a durable coin, only with the 100% pure metal. So some metallic alloys are also incorporated so that it gives a durability. So the alloy composition, the smelting techniques, and the whole art of minting, and then the artistic mastery that you have seen especially in the Kushana coin and also in the Gupta coins, on a very small surface, how the figures are drawn and the inscriptions are made, and not only the name of the king but his grandiloquent titles. So all this artistic mastery, the transition from the crude punchmark coins to the beautifully engraved and realistic portraits such as the Gupta gold coins, tracks the evolution of the regional art styles. Then we also learned about the political history and the chronology. As I was saying, that especially in the case of the Indo-Greeks, for example, these kings are known only through their coins. There is no contemporary literary inscription or literary evidence or whatsoever. So their succession, their chronology is determined only with the help of the numismatic sources. So coins help us in identifying rulers because they bear the names, titles, and portraits of the king, and thus help in reconstructing dynasties, helping in tracing their genealogies. For example, in Satavahana coin, we know that it was a matriarchal society because the name of the king includes the name of the mother of the king. So Vasishti Putra Satkarni, the king name is Satkarni, and Vasishti is the mother, or Gautami Putra Yagyashri Satkarni. So we also know about their genealogy. The timelines, for example, in many of the cases, it gives the eras. The dates are inscribed. Locating the empires, the geographical distribution of a specific coin finds mark the territorial boundaries of ancient kingdoms. Then uncovering the forgotten dynasties. Many of I have not touched about the majority of the local coinage of India, of various city-states and republics, which are known only through their coins, and there's no other evidence. Then we talk of the historical events. I gave you the example of Alexander's invasion, and that is the chronological marker in the history of this region. Then economic conditions, accessing the prosperity, the purity and choice of metal indicate economic health. Abundant gold and silver coins signal wealth, while copper or lead coins point to the localized everyday transaction. Then tracking inflation, a sudden debasement or lowering of the purity of the metal indicates physical crisis or a war or a economic decline. And also the trade routes, we can learn a lot about trade routes from the discovery of coins. For example, the coins of Kushanas are now being discovered in excavations in the Middle East, in the territories what is now known as the UAE, Sharjah, for example. We also very manifestedly know about the religious beliefs and cultural practices. I gave you examples of depiction of various deities on the coins, and also the rituals like the horse sacrifice, which we know from the coins. Very important is the role played by the numismatic sources in linguistic evolution and cultural synthesis. In fact, the decipherment of the Brahmi script, which led to the identification of King Ashoka, who is referred to in his inscriptions as a Piyadasi, was only made possible because of the coins which bore on one side the Brahmi script, which was undeciphered till the late mid 18th century, mid 19th century, sorry, 1835 or 37. And on the other side, there were the Greek translation of the same legend. So Greek was known, and with the corresponding decipherment, placing of the titles, names and titles, it helped in decipherment of the Brahmi and also in the Kharoshthi script, which in turn, changed the course of history. So, and finally, the art and iconography, various motifs and symbols, and the royal imagery, for example, portraits reveal the royal attire, their hairstyles. I've given a sketch here which shows, the curly hairs and, the adornments of the horse here, his attire, and on the reverse, the furniture, the settee on which the queen is seated, and her jewelry. It's mind you, a very small, like a 2.5 mm in diameter. And to make this metal piece, this coin, as a piece of art is really so. What we learn from the numismatic sources is not only the art and architecture, but a lot many things about the trade, about religious practices, language, scripts, historical events, and political history and chronology. So I think I've covered quite a bit. To conclude, I would like to reiterate that history of a nation is reconstructed through cultural vestiges of its past. And in this motley of historical sources, coins provide the most authentic and unbiased evidence of the past. Produced for mass consumption as the currency of their age, once these small metallic pieces became non-current, they provide corroborative or at times solitary evidence of an event of the past. The metal or alloy used in the manufacture of these coins also provide evidence of the scientific development during that particular period. There are many aspects of our heritage, such as development of iconography, language, script, or religious beliefs, as well as the reign and extent of a particular ruler, that can be authoritatively gleaned from the study of rich repertoire of Indian coins. I would like to add that the history is also continually written, rewritten, debated, challenged, and even questioned. And it is this dynamism that makes history relevant at all times. Thank you very much. Over to you, Apsara.
Thank you very much for your insightful and very interesting lecture, and also sharing many facets of the evolution of numismatic legacy. So now the floor is open for questions. So you can send your questions, comments in the chat box. Anita Kumari says an excellent lecture, and she's thanking you.
Thank you, Anita.
So, before we proceed, I have a question on your two upcoming publications. Could you briefly tell us about the two upcoming publications that you are working on?
It was a long, very old project that I got a fellowship in Cambridge to catalog their coins. They had something called Indian Coin Project. So both me and my co-researcher and my wife, we went to Cambridge, stayed there, studied their coins, and very interestingly, the Fitzwilliam Museum, which is a museum of the Cambridge University, uh, was also receiving coins found in India in the treasure troves. So there were only two museums outside India which were eligible for receiving the treasure trove coins which are found in different parts of India. One was the British Museum, and the second was the Fitzwilliam Museum. So they've got a very interesting collection of coins, which nobody had cataloged it before. So they invited me to prepare a catalog, which I've done. There are about almost 2,000 coins which we have studied and cataloged. So it will be like a history of the coinage and also the catalog of the coins.
Thank you, sir. So there's one question from Arundhati. She says, can you please tell a little bit about horsemen, bull type coins found in Kangra, Himachal Pradesh, India? What would be the earliest possible timeline you suggest for such coins?
Woolen horseman was like a very common, type of typology for coins, which was used by various dynasties across North India, from the Sasanians, what we call them, the Indo-Sasanians, to Delhi Sultans and to various ruling dynasties in the Himalayan region. So the earliest in would be the Indo-Sasanians, would be 8th to 9th century AD. And the later coin types were emulated or copied from that Indo-Sasanian coins.
Anita has a question. Is there some more evidence of Indian influence on South Asian coinage?
One thing is that we have to place ourselves in those times to understand that what was the polity. I mean, it was not the boundaries as we understand them today, what constitute the South Asia. So there was the mainland, the Indian subcontinent, and in that sense, for example, Sri Lanka, which was like an island nation, was only in contact with the southern dynasties. In this case, the Chola dynasties. So we have to understand that what period we are talking about. Like when we talk of the Kushanas from Peshawar to Mathura, there was one kingdom and one typology of coins were circulating in the entire region. So there's no one answer. There are many answers to these questions, depending upon the what period and what geographical area we are talking about. Lichavis, for example, they now control a part which is now part of Nepal. And they were in matrimonial alliances with a ruling dynasty of Bihar, the Gupta dynasty, which were having their capital in Bihar. So the whole area was using the same typology of the coin.
Professor Arjuna Aluhihare has a question.
Mm.
How did they make the coins with the elaborate designs?
We do not know for the ancient period. We can only marvel at the skills. Technically, there were three different techniques which were employed for coin manufacture. One was the punching techniques by which the punch mark coins that we saw were manufactured. So initially, small flans of metal of the required purity was cut from the sheet, and they were shaped roundish, and then the punches were employed. They were the iron punches on which the symbols were engraved in reverse, and then these punches were employed on the flan of the. So that was the punch mark technique. Then there was another technique which was known as the casting technique, where the molds were made in clay, and these molds were then used for the metal was poured into these molds, and then the molds were broke open, and the coins were retrieved. And the third coin type, which was used quite late, well into the 20th century, and still after the mechanization of the whole coining process, the same technique is used, which is known as the die striking. So there are, in older times, there was a anvil die, the lower die, and the other was the handheld die. And in between, the flan was placed, and it was struck with a hammer. So in one strike, the impression from both the dies was transferred onto the coin flan. So this was the manufacturing techniques, but the preparation of the die itself was a work of art. The inscriptions were approved by the sovereign. What is, because coins were also used as a mass media to convey the message that who is the king, what are his titles, what he's trying to perform. In Samudragupta case, he's performing a Ashwamedh Yagya. So everyone is supposed to comply with it. So that was quite a well thought of exercise where the inscriptions were approved, the design was approved, and the technical person used to transfer that design onto the dies or onto the punches, whatever be the case, or into the molds. And then the whole mass production of coin was undertaken.
Okay, sir. So we have Saroja who is congratulating you, and
Thank you,
she
Saroj.
says, congratulations to Dr. Sanjay for a very informative lecture. Then we have a question from uh, Akhand Pratap Singh, and
Uh-huh.
he says it was a really informative lecture. Can you please tell me some reference books that can provide me information regarding the history of Ganga, Yamuna, Dayob, especially the economy and culture of this area?
Well, there's a very basic book, and which is quite comprehensive. It is just titled Coins, authored by P.L. Gupta, who is one of the doyens of numismatic research in India. And it is published by the National Book Trust of India. And if you Google it on archive.org, you will find a PDF downloadable copy.
Then we have Dr. Kavan Ratnatunga. Thanks for a great talk, Dr. Kavan. I have a Rajaraja Chola coin with the Buddha footprint, unlike the Sivapada and fish representing Pandya. Do you know of any like it? It is posted on my website. Could it have been for the conquest of Lanka?
No, the accepted theory. I mean, Kavan himself is a great numismatist whom I admire, and Lakdeva's website is referred to by many scholars, including myself. So, I mean, you yourself are the best, person to answer this. But the accepted, I can only share the accepted version that these two upright fish, because they represent Pandya, because these fish are also found on the Pandyan coins. So a tiger lecturing to upright fish is like a domination of the Cholas over the Pandyas. And the fact that we know from the other sources that the Chola did defeat the Pandyas. So I have not come across any reference where it is interpreted as conquest over Lanka, which is then given with the typological similarity which I showed between the coins of Rajaraja Chola and his Rajendra Chol and the coins of Vijayabahu.
Again, there's another question from Akhand Pratap Singh. He says, "Sir, can you put light on the point that why Delhi was important in history in terms of economy?"
Delhi was important for various reasons, starting from mythological references that we get from the epic like Mahabharata, where it is referred to as Indraprastha. And the subsequent, starting from Alexander never came to Delhi, by the way. He returned from the borders of Punjab, the modern Punjab, which is now included in Pakistan and shared with India. So Delhi was, I think, that was the first available uh, like a stable geographical territory where you can have an access to the northwest, which is the gateway to the Central Asia and beyond, and also to China, for example, because that was the route, overland route, which was used uh, by many pilgrims and conquerors and traders for very many centuries. And the other reason is that, successive rulers chose Delhi to be its capital. Not all, but up to the period that we are talking about.
There's a question from Nishita Marar. She
Mhm.
says, very informative session. My question is, what is the first thing we study when it comes to coins?
You have to hold a coin in your hand. You cannot study coin from the illustrations and from the illustrated lectures like this one. If you really want to study coins, you have to have the physical access to the coins, because that gives you much more information. For example, the counterfeiting. The coins was a piece of value, and there were counterfeiters like a forgers in all ages. In fact, the uh, famous commentator Kautilya, who was contemporary of the Mauryan king Chandragupta, so he has in his treatise called Arthashastra a whole chapter on the counterfeiters and their punishments. So unless, I mean, the coin illustration would not give you that insight whether this coin is genuine or a forgery coin. So first we have to distinguish that what we are studying. Are we studying a forged coin, which gives, altogether a different kind of information, or it is a genuine coin? So I think that is the starting point, that you have to have the access to the coins themselves and determine whether it's a genuine coin or a counterfeit coin, and then proceed from there.
Okay, sir. Then there is Chetan Palavali who asked whether any time in history were seals and coins used interchangeably.
No, it is quite possible that the artist of the seals and the coins were one and the same person, or the same set of artisans were manufacturing the seals. I mean, they had altogether a different purpose. The coins were primarily for the monetary transaction, and for that the essential requirement is circulation. Uh, if you have got a $10 in your pocket, it doesn't mean anything unless you go to a mall and buy something. So only then, when it is circulated, it possesses the value. Otherwise, it's just a piece of metal or it's just a piece of paper. So circulation and the monetary transaction, whether it's purchasing or selling or paying taxes or whatever. So monetary transaction was the essential part for which the coins were made. Seals, on the other hand, they were a mark of authority, and they were used very sparingly, unlike the coins which we find in they are mass produced for mass consumption. So seals we will find either on the official documents, or uh, copper plates, or the inscriptions, to as a mark of authentication, or mark of like a genuineness. So the purpose and the use of these two objects were altogether different.
Then we have a question from Harish Nath. He says, now that everyone uses digital money, we don't really use coins anymore. Do you think we lose something culturally if coin culture completely dies out?
Well, yes and no. I mean, when coins gave way to paper currency, a new, hobby or study grew up called note phily. So, taking from philately, which is a collection of stamps. So, note phily, I mean, people who collect the currency notes. And in fact, in Mumbai, a few months back, there was a exhibition of how the culture and local imagery and the national identity is reflected in currency notes from around the world. So whether it's a depiction of monuments or ocean or leaders or whatsoever. So it's evolving thing. Again, as I said, that we have to be very mindful of the period and the geographical area that we are researching into. So if you are researching into the Janpada period, so coins are the only source that you have. All the texts are of a later date. So only contemporary evidence that you have for that period are the numismatic evidence. But having
Okay.
said that, there are also commemorative coins which are being issued even when the paper currency is the main currency all over the world today. So, I mean, you name a country and you'll find from time to time the government issue commemorative coins to mark different events. So, commemorative events, the coins are also like they are collectibles, and later on they are also studied.
Then Lopamudra Moitra also sends her best wishes to you, and she says, very nice to listen to you once more, sir, and my good wishes. And
Thank you, Lopa.
And then Dr. Kavan Ratnatunga sends this link. I don't know, sir. I'm sure you are able to access it. So he says, I'm talking about different coins as depicted and he sends this link in the chat box. I'm not too sure whether you are able to click the link.
You can let me go back and just you can share my email and we can be in touch.
Okay, sir. I hope there are no more questions. So thank you, sir, once again on behalf of the SAARC Cultural Center for accepting our invitation and for delivering this very insightful and interesting lecture. And also I would like to thank our audience for all your questions and comments. So we hope to see you in another similar interesting lecture hopefully in the month of July. And also we invite our audience to check for our updates on our upcoming events and activities, and also for call for papers. And once again, I thank you everyone and wish you a very good evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.